Hello, everyone. It's great to see you for another night on Hope from the Stevens Home. This is my son, Elliot. He's my oldest son, soon to be in
3 days.
3 days, really like 2.5.
Yeah, really.
Soon to be 15. And tonight, we're going to talk to you a little bit about kind of the opposite of hope. And so that word is disappointment. So if you're online and you're watching us right now live, if you want to just leave a comment and let us know that you're there, we'd love to say hello. If you're watching us via replay, thank you for joining us. We're glad that you're able to join us. And so tonight, Elliot, we're going to talk about kind of the opposite of hope, and that's disappointment.
Correct.
And so you turn 15 in just a few days. And how are you feeling about turning 15?
A little nervous, a little excited. I know that once I turn 15, it's only 365 days till I turn 16, and then another year till 17, and then another year till I'm an adult, and then I'll be out of here. So
No, you're going to stay here for a long time. Just so you know.
hopefully not.
I hope so. But how are you feeling about turning 15 as it relates to disappointment?
Well, I think if I can read your mind for a second, I was supposed to get my driver's permit on my 15th birthday, or the day after, rather. But because of this, I can't, because BMV is closed because of a certain airborne flu that is going around that is significantly worse than the flu. And it's sad, but,
So you're feeling a little disappointed
a little bit, yeah.
because you're hoping to get your permit and practice driving.
And we were actually supposed to go racing this summer, but that was canceled too.
That's you're hoping to go racing.
I was hoping
I don't know if "supposed to"
That's what you said.
is the right word, but you're hoping to go racing. Okay, so you're feeling a little disappointed because you're hoping to kind of be like your sister and go get your permit or sign up for driver's ed, the online courses, go get your permit, start practicing.
But on the manual.
But on the manual car, the manual transmission, because you really love that. And so now with the BMV being closed for who knows how long, that might have to wait.
Yeah, sadly.
So disappointment, yes, but is it permanent disappointment?
No, because I feel like something that I've been experiencing a lot lately is if you just set your mind and have this hope on one specific thing, as soon as that's over, it's kind of, you don't really know what to do, because if you focus on something that won't really last, you're going to be disappointed.
So, I mean, that's kind of the definition of hope when it's used in this circumstance. It's not wishful thinking, but instead it's confident expectation. And so would you say you have a confident expectation of being able to drive at some point?
At some point, I think I do, as long as no significant injuries happen to my person.
Well, yes. But I'm talking about as far as like the BMV reopening.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully.
So you have a confident expectation. You're disappointed now, but you have a confident expectation in the future.
Absolutely.
Well, that's good. I'm glad, that you're going to be driving soon. And you can help share the load, and it is enjoyable to watch you grow up. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, last night we talked with your sister about Good Friday.
Which I did not watch.
Yes, you didn't watch that.
I did not watch that.
All right. Well, hopefully she's watching you tonight, or going to watch you later.
I hope.
Right. Yeah, that's okay. But we talked about Good Friday, and we talked about the best story of hope at all, ever, is the story of Jesus, and how on Good Friday he went through a lot for us.
He did.
And we talked about we were watching the Passion of the Christ, and we understand that that's a fictionalized account to some degree of what Jesus went through, but there's a lot of truth in what happened there. And so we see Jesus being beaten and abused and mocked, and it is horrible. And then we see his death on Good Friday. We see his crucifixion. He died on the cross. So today, we're in Saturday. and I want to take you back nearly 2,000 years ago. And
when I was not born yet, if you can do some quick maths.
some quick maths. You weren't born yet, but let's go back to nearly 2,000 years ago, and this is fresh. This is brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus has died. He's been crucified, and at this point, a few people have received his body and put it in a tomb. You're one of either one of his disciples or one of his close inner circle of friends. How are you feeling right now?
There's really no words for how I'd be feeling, because I was promised the Messiah, and I thought that would mean the immediate salvation of my people, and we all thought that he was perfect and that he was God, and then he dies, and I'm at his grave right now. I would be beyond disappointed.
Disappointment. It would rule. I mean, we have the added benefit of being able to cheat, right? To read the rest of the story.
Yeah.
To read ahead. Do you ever like to read ahead?
It depends on the book, because if it's a school book, I will read ahead just in case I don't meet the deadline. But if it's a book that I'm reading for myself, I will not read ahead because I don't want to spoil it.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. But we have the added benefit of, here we are 2,000 years later, reading ahead in the story. We know what's happening. We celebrate it every year. But you're there 2,000 years ago, one of his friends, you're deeply disappointed. Because your expectations of Jesus didn't happen. And I think, Elliot, that's one of the things that happens in life. So you can be honest here. It's just me and you and the camera, right? And so we don't know who's on or who's watching. Have I ever disappointed you?
Many times, yes. I will take this opportunity to say that my dad is not perfect.
That's so awesome. I think Kaylin said the same thing last night, that I'm
That's
not perfect.
good.
That's good. I'm
more than
very
one
glad.
witness.
Yes, more than one witness, where two or more witnesses agree, right? But at the same time, it's make sure I stay humble, right?
Yeah.
But it's the truth. We're broken. We're not perfect. We don't do things the way we want to all the time. We don't do things the way we should all the time. I know I definitely don't, and I'm still learning and growing in my role as a husband of nearly 18 years, as a father, to 4 children, as a friend, and I'm still learning and growing in what that means and how not to disappoint people. But I've disappointed you, right?
Yes.
And you don't have to be so energetic about that disappointment. So I've disappointed you. And what does it look like, though, when we come through that disappointment and that relationship, that hurt is healed, that relationship restored? What does that look like and feel like to you?
Well, I think in many respects, afterward, when everything is resolved, I typically have an even higher respect for my dad, because if someone only presents to you their good side, then that can seem really ingenuine and false. But whenever you get to see someone's flaws, they disappoint you. That just shows you that they're exactly like you are. They're not perfect. And I feel like, after it's all over, I really do think we're closer because of it.
Well, thank you for saying that, Elliot. That means a lot to me, and it even means a lot more because, like, this is totally unscripted, unplanned, unprompted. I have no idea what's going to be said here live, with our friends and viewers watching. So, we're talking about the opposite of hope tonight, because while our program's called Hope from the Stevens Home, we have to recognize disappointment. And we have to recognize when disappointment happens, and family is one of the biggest proponents or people who disappoint us the most, because we live the closest to each other. So we know each other. We know each other's good points and bad points, and we see each other. How many times when you go out and hang out with your friends or whatever, do you put on the best I can be face?
Typically all of the time, yes.
And-
Sadly.
But when we come home, we take that mask off, we take the fakeness off, and we're real with each other, and we can disappoint each other even more. Well, tonight I just want to share a few things, Elliot. You hit on it about if you were one of the crowd, one of disciples, or one of the inner circle. Jesus has just been crucified. He's lying in a tomb, and here's what's actually happening. The disciples and that group is hiding. They're hiding behind locked doors because they're disappointed. You have political extremists in the group. Judas, who is a zealot, he was one of the. That's a political group that really wanted to see, the Messiah return and the kingdom restored to Israel and Rome overthrown, and so we have the political extremists. We have the people who just really thought they set their expectations on Jesus, what they expected of him, and Jesus let them down. Have you ever been let down by God?
Well, I think if we can even take from this example of Jesus letting down the disciples, I think we can actually pull an example of being let down by God. Because Jesus, when he was being crucified, about to give his last breath, he said, "God, why have you forsaken me?" Because we, as humans, even though Jesus was God, he was also humans, and we can't always see the entire picture. Which is why we really have to submit ourselves to God and say, "Okay, God, the Messiah just died. I hope you know what you're doing." And not, I don't want to say disappointed, but it can feel like that, as only if we don't completely submit ourselves and trust him.
Yeah.
That's when I think we can be disappointed.
Well, I agree, but when we don't submit and surrender, or when we have a misunderstanding of what God wants to accomplish. Because his disciples, many of them, and the people surrounding him, really misunderstood what Jesus' purpose was. In fact, after Jesus has risen from the grave and he's with his disciples right before he ascends into heaven, in Acts chapter 1, they're asking him again, "Lord, are you going to restore the kingdom to Israel at this time?" They're still misunderstanding his point and his purpose. And Jesus responds, "It's not for you to know the seasons, the times, what's happening there. What I want you to do and what I want you to focus on is I want you to be my witnesses, to talk about me, to share about me all around the world. Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth." And so disappointment many times stems from misunderstanding. We don't understand each other. And I think the disciples didn't understand Jesus and didn't have a clue what was going on. But you know what, Elliot, I would even say that many times we don't have, like you mentioned, we don't fully understand what God is doing. There's a song that we sing, I forget the title, but I think we sang it last week in our worship service. And it was, You Never Let Me Down. Do you know what song I'm thinking of?
No, I don't know.
I'll have to look it up.
I don't want to put an awkward.
But there's a contemporary worship song that we sing and we say I think it's in the bridge. You've never let me down. You never let me down or disappoint me. And I think that's interesting is it is true on one side. The words to that song is true, but the words to that song on the other side is completely false. Because in the sense that it's true, it is true when we surrender, like you said. When we surrender to what God is doing. But if we don't surrender to what God is doing, then are we going to feel disappointed?
Probably.
Yeah. Do you ever feel disappointed or struggle with that when you want God to do something a certain way and it's happening a different way?
Yeah.
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 So walk through that struggle. What does that look like?
Well, I think, like he's saying, it typically, in my experience, which is barely not even 15 years yet, but it's always been, like you said, miscommunication and different expectations of what's actually happening, where I've thought, okay, God, you told me this, so I'm going to interpret that as X. Whereas God meant it as Y, and as he continues to move through Y, we're thinking, God, why aren't you doing X? That's what you said you were going to do. But that's when we have to remind ourselves, no. God didn't make us any promises, aside from the very obvious ones he gave us, of course. But he said that he was going to do this. But if we misinterpret and have those false expectations, that's when we're let down.
Exactly. And so it's important to surrender our interpretations to God and surrender that God knows what he's doing and that he has the best plan for him, for his people, and for us who loves us. And so tonight, this is the Saturday before Easter. It's April 11th. It's day 11 of this Hope from the Stevens Home. But tonight, I really want to ask you this question. How have you been disappointed? How have you been disappointed by God? How have you been disappointed by others? And really thinking about that disappointment. Because that disappointment impacts how we view other people. It impacts how we view our relationships with our husband or wife. It impacts how we view our relationships with our kids or brothers and sisters or parents. That disappointment impacts how we view our relationship with God. And it's in that disappointment that we really have to ask ourselves a deep, tough question. And that is, did I misunderstand? Did I mishear? Did I put my own expectations instead of hearing what the real expectations were? Because in our relationships, it's about communication. It's about understanding and agreeing upon expectations, speaking those expectations, and really surrendering. When it comes to God, it's about surrender and surrendering our lives to him. So I want to say this tonight, as you think about it, think that 2,000 years ago, the disciples were struggling probably with similar thoughts of disappointment, disillusionment, depression, despair. They didn't have the rest of the story. They didn't quite understand what Jesus meant about dying, why he had to die in the first place. They didn't really see the full picture until the other side of Sunday morning. So my challenge to you tonight, in your disappointment, also find surrender. In your hurt, also find healing. Find that through God and with the people around you. Work on understanding. Work on verifying what you understand. But then work on loving each other. Jesus was misunderstood. His point and his purpose was vastly misunderstood nearly 2,000 years ago on this dark Saturday. They had no idea what was going to happen, where they were going to go, whether they're going to escape with their lives, hiding behind locked doors. But there's more to the story. And just like the disciples, there's more to your story. There's hope on the other side of your disappointment. There's healing on the other side of your hurt. Tonight, I pray that you find that. Have a great night. Thank you for joining us. We're so glad you're able to be with us this evening. And we look forward to tomorrow for an exciting conclusion to these 3 days and what's happened over this good, holy weekend. Thank you. Have a great one. We love you.